Hello everyone and welcome to From Scratch TV. I am your host, Fumi Hancock. From Scratch TV is an international inspirational television programming, and what we try to do is to bring to you, our audience, ordinary people that are doing extraordinary things. And with me today is our Excellency, the Ambassador of African Union to the United States of America, and this is in the person of Amina Ali. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
You know, the first time that I first met you was in January, and we came here to kind of inaugurate the African Union. And as I sat at the dinner, I truly heard your heart for your people. Now, when we say that you're an ambassador to African Union, could you tell us a little bit about that? What does it mean to be an ambassador to African Union in the United States of America?
Actually, first of all, I want to thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to appear in your TV station. And this is very important, especially for us from Africa, to get an institution that can really give a real information about Africa in a positive way. Because most of the time, if you follow the traditional media, you find they don't really portray Africa in a positive way. There are good stories from Africa, but they don't sell. So you only see Africa when there is drought or war or fight or negative. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for gracing us.
Now, African Union Commission, our leaders decided to have a mission in the US. And this is because at that time, since in the 80s, when Africa used to really work with America, but therefore it's better to have an office in the US, so that then we can interact, we can influence their foreign policy, we can inform them, we can work with them to be able really to bring closer the opinion, the African opinion. And that's why 2006, the Commission decided to really implement, and then they opened the office in late 2006. So I came here to open the office, and then we present our letter of credence to the President. And at that time, the Congress, the US Congress, really decided to give diplomatic status to our mission. So this is the second diplomatic mission, because we are an international organization, not a country. And we really appreciate the gesture from the US government to recognize African Union and giving them the diplomatic status. In the same token, the US also a field ambassador in Addis to represent the US government to the US, to the African Union. So this shows the level of engagement between Africa and the US. And we really appreciate it. We see it's strengthened as we go along. The relation is really deeply strengthened.
Now, can you share with our audience what is the mission, the vision, and the goal of African Union having its presence here in the United States? What is the vision? What are you hoping to accomplish?
Well, as you know, the US is a superpower, and it really influences the decisions in many instances. And the decision that America influences have positive and negative impact in the development of Africa. So in that respect, when we decided to have an office here, it was because we wanted to be able to work with them and to empower the decision-making process of the US. Now in that respect, we have in our mandate, our 21 mandate, including to work with US administration. And one of the areas that they said is to build cooperation between Africa and US administration. And then we have also areas of cooperation between African Union and Congress. And then we have diaspora and institutional, like IMF and World Bank. The reason why is because African Union, it is mandated to really come out with continental policy. Now when we talk about continental policy are the policy that really, in a comprehensive manner, address several issues in Africa, whether it could be education, whether it could be health, maybe it could be in industrialization. We have continental policy that really empower our member country gesture from the US government to recognize African Union and give them the diplomatic status. In the same token, the US also affiliated ambassador in Addis to represent the US government to the US, to the African Union. So this shows the level of engagement between Africa and the US. And really, we really appreciate it. We see it's strengthening as we go along. The relation is really deepening and strengthening.
Now, can you share with our audience what is the mission, the vision, and the goal of African Union having its presence here in the United States? What is the vision? What are you hoping to accomplish?
Well, as you know, the US is a superpower, and it really influences the decisions in many instances, and the decision that America influences have positive and negative impact in the development of Africa. So in that respect, when we decided to have an office here, it was because we wanted to be able to work with them and to empower the decision-making process in the US. Now, in that respect, we have in our mandate, we have over 21 mandates, including to work with US administration. And one of the areas that they said is to build cooperation between Africa and US administration. And then we have also areas of cooperation between African Union and Congress. And then we have diaspora and institutional like IMF and World Bank. The reason why, because African Union, it is mandated to really come out with continental policy. Now when we talk about continental policy is the policy that really in a comprehensive manner address several issues in Africa, whether it could be education, whether it could be health, maybe it could be in industrialization. We have continental policy that really empower our member countries and also support them in their effort for economic development. So the reason why our office is very important, because in those policies we need support, we need support of a cooperation, we need support in terms of funding, some expenses. So that's why our office is also to help the implementation of those policies, as well as in terms of looking for funds to be able really to implement this policy in the right way.
Now, talk to me a little bit about what kind of challenges have you faced here trying to set up, have a foundation here for African Union. Have you faced any challenges, and if so, can you give us just one example of the challenges that you're facing, and you hopefully hope that maybe when people hear about it, maybe that could, they could bring some light into it and it could help?
I could say maybe administratively, we have some challenges, that's our own challenges, because of administrative issues, they have our own challenges. But at the same time, the other challenge that is not our own challenges, that come from the fact that we are dealing with the US administration. And to some extent, they have their own interest when they derive their own foreign policy towards Africa. And in most cases, their policy, their interest, will not really be matched with our interest. Sometimes their interest will not really be different from our interest. So this is one of the challenges, how to be able to influence the US administration to really see that Africa now it's grown out of being a beggar, grown out of being a hopeless continent. So we also, in that respect, that calls for US administration to change their policy towards Africa. Because what Africa needs now is not, we are not begging for anything. What Africa needs now is support toward economic development in terms of investment, in terms of trade. Instead of giving, just continuing to have the same system of giving aids and loans to Africa. Yes, we need support, we need development assistance. But at the same time, we are moving toward encouraging investment, because the only way for Africa to develop is to invest in Africa, is to increase production capacity, is to be able now to really have a very sound manufacturing base. Those are the areas where we need to have a very good program that would help Africa to attain food security and self-sufficiency. We are very happy in terms of food security and self-sufficiency. The Obama administration has supported Africa in a big way in the CADA program, the program for agriculture. But those are the challenges. Another challenge is to really to change the perception of Americans. You know, because they don't know much about Africa. It's like, for them, it's like it's a continent, but they know Africa is a continent. And they think Africa is one country. And they think that Africa is still backward. And they don't realize that the Africa of today, we are over 1.2 billion. If you include the diaspora, we are almost 1.5 people with African background. Now, in that respect, we also have, since I'm saying, things have changed. Now we have a middle class in Africa. And middle class in Africa, they need the same opportunity, the same right, the same sort of treatment that any other middle class in any country. So sometimes they ask you, do you have supermarket? In Africa, they have gone all that. You have urban centers, we have well-developed systems in those urban centers. I'll give you an example of telecommunication. So how our duty now is really to impact those sort of that type of information to the American society. I'm not talking about the administration now, but we have to talk to the society, from school to the society, through churches, through community. So they should know that this Africa is different. While we are seeing people from China, from India, from Brazil and others, they all rush to Africa to invest. So they realize that this Africa is different. So this is a challenge, how to really reach the target, how to be able to meet the American, inform them. And we have, in my office, we have a communication strategy. We've already passed the strategy. Now, one of our activities is to engage media like you and others to tell them that we are here, and we say, we have a slogan says, inform America. What do you call it? Inform America, and wow, that's the slogan.
Well, it's a good thing that you mentioned that, because a lot of the things that we've been facing, like ourselves, that we go back home, is that we try to take some Americans with us, and a lot of times they are always into the media, and the images that are being portrayed by media of Africa is really, really gruesome. And I know that a lot of times when we finally decide to push through that media and go back home, we go back home and we're very, just like you said, we're surprised when we see Chinese and see all these people all over the place running around trying to get businesses. And we have our Americans sitting here getting really afraid. So it is my hope that when they start hearing people like you really speak on behalf of Africa, they will begin to see the other aspect of Africa. Now, you also mentioned diaspora, which are Africans in diaspora. Those are living outside of the African continent. How can we help? What can we do? In your own personal opinion, what do you think? How can we add to, add a positive spin to what your office is already doing?
Well, as you know, African Union recognized diaspora for a long time. And we have given symbolic 6 regions, which I'm sure we very soon to have a structure, framework of engagement. But what differentiates between the African diaspora and other diaspora? African diaspora, they are well educated, and then some of them, the Afro-American, African American, they have, some of them are well there in terms of resources. But what is lacking here is how do we promote them to go to Africa? Because to go to Africa, you have either you have resources or you are passionate enough to go to Africa. So we are seeing a lot of diaspora who really want to engage in the field of the health field and in education, and to some extent also in ICT. But I think we need now to really promote diaspora engagement in trade and investment. Why I'm saying this? Because I feel close affinity to the African diaspora. It's easier for an African diaspora to live with African in Africa because of that sort of blood ties and cultural affinity and others. But what stops them going to Africa? Because they need a push. You need to have some funds to be able to invest in Africa. Once you are there, Africans will welcome the diaspora. So I think the administration, through our GOA program, through our trade investment program, we should also look at to what extent we can easily promote the diaspora in this other field, in trade and investment. And that's, mind you, that has a win-win situation, whereby the American economy will improve and African economy will improve. Because in trade and investment, we have a goal. It's an open market for African products. So if you have an American invest in Africa and export to America, and that's really going to have impact in both countries.
Now, so if we have a viewer out there that is looking at what you're saying and say, well, perhaps I have the capacity to want to, or the interest in wanting to start a business in Africa, what is the suggestion? How do they go about doing this? Can they connect with your office, or what are you looking at? How do they get from A to B?
Now, the best way is to go through the embassy.
Okay.
Because we have all the embassies in Washington. And if you know who are your partner, so for you to need to look for your partner, and you know what you want to do in terms of project, then you contact the embassy, and then you get a partner in Africa, then you can move from there, you can move through the embassy.
All right, this is kind of like a nice segue, because I know that we talked about from scratch. A lot of our viewers will be watching you because they want to know how you started from scratch. And I was listening to you today talk a little bit about the Health Initiative for African Union, which is basically starting from scratch. So my question to you now is, what kind of career path did you take to become an ambassador?
Well, actually, what I would say, I was in politics for almost all my life. And to be honest, I didn't really expect to end up in politics. There was a time when I was in school, I was really thinking of joining the military. And especially in the airfield.
Oh my goodness.
Unfortunately, that time when I was finishing my high school, they didn't recruit women in the army. So they came to our school, they recruit all our colleagues, and some of them ended up being pilot in Air Force. And then for us women, we end up going to do other things. So then when I came back after I did my degree, I came back home, and I was in the Ministry of Economic Affairs. So then I thought, why don't I join politics to really help women? We at that time affirmative action. Many countries in Africa, they have affirmative action when they promote women. So I joined politics in the parliament through affirmative action, and I became a minister. So the reason why I wanted to join politics was, I said, I have been educated free by my government, a scholarship throughout. And I thought I had the opportunity to really come back and help my people. So then I started with the women wing, parliament, and then I was a minister. And then for some time, until I resigned, when I was asked to come to Washington as ambassador for African Union, then I thought, okay, well, this is another challenge. I think I can represent Africans in the US. So I accepted it and came. And I think it's very, very engaging job. And you need to be passionate enough, really, to be able really to work. Otherwise, if you're not passionate enough, then you may just sit down and do the routine diplomatic job. And I think we from Africa, we can't afford really to just do routine work.
There's a lot to be done.
There's a lot to be done, and not only for myself or for my country, but for the continent. Because I believe the more we push for development, the more we see the possibility in the horizon that very soon Africa is going to really occupy the place that we all hope we are going to occupy. Because we believe that this century is the century for Africa. So whatever we can do to really look for partners, look for opportunities, and brief out our organization, trying to connect people, connect those who have and those who can support and those who can really move ahead with our agenda. Then I think that's what really make me happy, and also put me in the situation where I want to do much more to be able really to see that Africa. If I had my way, I think we could all work 24 hours. And then sometimes we need to raise something. Yes, but this is the momentum. And this century, I have very, very high hope that Africa is really moving moved in the right direction.
Now, as we just wind down on this interview, I know that a lot of our viewers, because this is an inspirational TV programming, and our hope is for people to hear you and be inspired to want to make a difference, to be a difference maker. So what would you advise other people that are watching you right now, and they are in a position where they don't know what to do, and they're just looking for that little nudge to move them to the next step? What is your advice as far as them going after their dreams? What is your advice to them?
Yeah, my advice is, there was a time, America is the land of migration. Greater percentage of America, they migrate from other countries to come to America because this was the land of opportunity. But now the situation, you see what is happening in the Western world. And maybe some people are afraid of thinking of migrating to Africa. But I think for the diaspora, Africa is really welcome to them. They should not be worried to go to Africa. You know, it may take time, maybe 2, 3, 6 months to get used to. But Africa is a place where, especially the diaspora, to think. I'll give you an example. We have about 350 million young people in Africa, between the age of 0 to 14. And these young people, we need to educate these young people. So you can tell me how many schools we need to build in Africa.
Wow.
How many uniforms, for instance, you need to have to sew for these young people. How many textbooks you need for this curriculum? How many teachers you will need to train to be able to be teachers in those schools? And each year, the population for Africa, the rate is between 3.2%, very high rate. That means each year we have many children. This is an opportunity. So if we have the diaspora who is let's say a teacher with a knowledge of having a school, of a primary school or business school, it's open. You come to Africa, there's an opportunity. Why do you want other people to come to Africa? And immediately,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Because Africa now, the return of investment is more than 3%.
Wow.
If you put your seed on the ground in Africa, you get fruits. When you put the same seed in some part of the world, in Western world, it takes time to get the same return. So, only thing that's remaining is fear. Fear of the unknown. And African people are very welcoming, very respectable, very friendly. So I think everybody should take a chance. When you find your life is tough here, try to get some loan or finance and get friends. You know, because here we have now over, let's say, 40 million. But out of those 40 million diaspora African immigrants here, make friends. Those are the ones who will take you to Africa. Since you have a friend from Africa, link with them, invest in their country, because you belong to Africa as a diaspora. So I think America should really come out of the fear that Africa is very dangerous. Africa is moving and it's very peaceful. Many countries, we don't have war, we don't have a fight among us. There are some pockets, but the greater percentage of the continent is very peaceful and it's moving.
Well, I want to thank you so much for taking this time to tell us a lot about African Union and also what the agenda and the strategy is. I really appreciate your presence here today. I hope that we are treating you to the Southern hospitality while you're here. And I so look forward to speaking with you some more about it. Well, my audience and the viewers, I thank you. You've heard it from Excellency, the Ambassador for African Union in the United States of America. Come over to Africa. There's a lot to be done in Africa. We need to overcome our fears and be able to look beyond what is unknown and do what is right and what is best. Africa is not all about giving and giving to the poor alone, but Africa also Mother Africa has a lot to offer too. So until next time, thank you so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.